guys, so today's video is going to be on New Zealand versus Australia. Now first of all, before I get into this video, I just want to say a big thank you to the person who actually gave me this video idea in the comments of my last video. And if you guys have any other videos you want me to film, then definitely let me know and I will absolutely film them for you guys. Other than that, there are a few other reasons that I'm making this video, and one of them is because I am sick of every time I go overseas, I get mistaken for an Australian and everyone thinks I'm from Australia, and barely anyone, like it's a rare occurrence for someone to assume I'm from New Zealand. I've even had people in other countries that I've talked to that think that New Zealand and Australia are the same country, or they think New Zealand is in Australia. There was even this one girl at the uni that I went to in America last year. She thought New Zealand was in Europe. Last time I checked, New Zealand's probably like the furthest place away from Europe in the world, so yeah, we're not in Europe, just so you know if you're watching this. So today I want to talk to you guys about these two marvelous countries that I love and just simply shed some light on some of the few key differences in terms of our people and our culture that you may not have known. Also, let me know in the comments below if when you guys travel to any other countries around the world, you get mistaken for someone from another place. I'd love to hear about it. It's always really funny to hear. And yes, New Zealand and Australia are pretty similar, but there definitely are some subtle differences between the countries. And if you guys like this video and want to see more content from me, then don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, okay. Okay, so just to set the record straight, for those of you who genuinely don't know, I'm talking to you Americans. Just kidding. New Zealand and Australia are two entirely different countries. We are separated by a minimum of a 3-hour flight across a large ocean, and we just call this flying across the ditch, like going across the ditch. Aussies just across the ditch, that's what we say. But New Zealand and Australia are both part of the wider region known as Australasia. Something else worth noting is the land area of Australia is actually 29 times bigger than New Zealand. So New Zealand is pretty damn tiny. Australia is huge, although the large majority of Australia, no one actually really lives in the middle part. I mean, a few people do. I'm sure there's some places that you can, but the east coast of Australia is where most people are living. So if you think about it like that, it doesn't make it seem quite so big. Australia's total population is around 24 million people, while New Zealand's population is just 4.5 million. Accents, and yes, they are different, I can assure you of that. From the dawn of time, both Kiwis and Aussies have made fun of each other's accents. But instead of trying to explain it, I'm going to show you guys this Flight of the Conchords video. If this video is really funny, and it'll definitely give you more of a look into not so much the Australian, or kind of, but more so the New Zealand culture and how we act towards Australians. Mistaking the New Zealand accent for an Aussie one is a pretty big deal sometimes.
Too bad New Zealanders are a bunch of cocky a-holes descended from criminals and retarded monkeys.
You're thinking of Australians?
Yeah, that's Australians.
That's Australians.
No, New Zealanders. They throw another shrimp on the barbie, ride around in your kangaroos all day.
No,
that's Australians.
You're thinking of Australians, that's not us.
I've totally confused you with Australians. I feel terrible.
Oh no.
Your accents, they're just kind of similar.
Our accents are completely different. They're like, where's the car? And we're like, where's the car?
Neela, you can uncover your eyes. They're not Australians, they're New Zealanders.
I'm also just going to play another video now, which this one, she does the Australian and New Zealand accent so perfectly. This example couldn't really make the differences more clear cut. Also, just to give you a little bit of a background on this next video, Marmite is New Zealand's national spread that we are very proud of. New Zealand has Marmite, Australia has Vegemite, and there's always an argument over which one is better because one is New Zealand and one is Australian. You guys will hopefully understand like the gist of what the ad is saying when you listen to it, so here you go.
The wood spider is the most...
Oh, love this show! It's my favourite. Oh, love him. Oh, not her, but. Oh no, she's such a mole. Can't believe she's wearing stripes. Did you her and Kylie were switched at birth. Why are we watching this? Isn't there a test on the other channel?
And the home side have stolen it. Well, here's trouble for the Wallabies.
So as you can see, our accents are definitely not the same, but I guess it's kind of like if you were to compare an American accent and a Canadian accent. It's like that kind of thing. They're pretty similar, but a lot of people still mistake Canadians for Americans. To a foreigner, I can see how our accents would sound the same, but if you were someone living here, you know, in one of these two countries, you'll definitely notice a difference. Sibling rivalry and banter. So there is constant banter between these two countries. We are extremely competitive between each other, and we like to make fun of each other at any given chance. If anyone ever asked you what team is better at rugby between our countries, just always say New Zealand, because it's not even up for debate. So we definitely treat each other like siblings, but at the end of the day, we love each other. But sometimes we act like we don't like each other very much, and the Flight of the Conchords actually do a really amazing example of how our relationship is with Australia in this next clip.
Hello, Britt speaking.
Brett, it's Jermaine speaking.
Hey man, where are you? Did you run away?
No, I went home with a girl.
What?
Brett, I think she might be Australian.
Are you sure she's Australian?
Either she's Australian or she really likes Australia.
Oh, you gotta get out of there. Just get out of there.
I'm locked in, she's trapped me.
I'm not surprised. Okay, keep calm, jump out the window.
Good idea.
Oh, it's too high.
Okay, we'll do one of those dive rolls when you land.
Okay, I'll try.
G'day.
Oh. Hey.
Jesus, got a tongue like a badger's arsehole. What you doing there, Big J?
Just talking to a friend of mine.
Don't talk to her.
Hey.
She's definitely Australian.
I'm not sure I got your name.
Keitha.
Pardon?
Keitha.
Keitha?
Yeah, it's like Keith, but with an A at the end. I was named after me dad.
She's got a man's name.
Keitha, that's a lovely name.
So how about we go back to bed?
Definitely don't do that. No, I can't.
Oh.
Would you be able to unlock the door? Thanks for coming.
How do you feel?
Fine. Just ashamed.
How could you not know she was Australian?
I don't know, it was loud in the nightclub.
Does she look Australian-y?
Not particularly, no. Only in the face, I suppose, but not bodily. Not at all.
Does she sound Australian? Australian accent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did it sound like?
Kind of like an evil version of our accent.
Did she mock your accent?
Not that I remember.
She may have subtly mocked your accent. You didn't notice.
She may have subtly been mocking me. Did you use protection? Yes, but only on my penis.
Slang words. So these two countries, we definitely use a lot of slang words in our everyday life. I noticed that just from going to America last year, half the people couldn't understand like a lot of things I was saying. It was pretty funny. But the most common stereotypical greeting in Australia would be "G'day mate," and the most stereotypical one in New Zealand would be "Kia ora." And that just means hello. There are some other common words that we say differently to them as well. For example, you guys know what flip-flops are, right? I'm pretty sure that's what the majority of the world calls them. Fun fact here, New Zealand actually invented the flip-flops. But anyway, this is not what New Zealanders and Australians call them. So the Aussies call them thongs, but in New Zealand, a thong is like a G-string, that's underwear. And New Zealanders call flip-flops jandals. Apparently that word is actually short for Japanese sandal. So it's just like putting a J on sandal. Jandal. People, the people, the people. The people are terrible. Just don't bother coming here. Just kidding. We are a lovely bunch. Both of the countries are just really chilled out. We have a laid back way of living life. And we definitely just have that "it's all good bro" mentality. It's always all good, even if, you know, someone's house is burning down or something really shitty happened. It's all good. She'll be right. But if we had to narrow it down to some differences between the people, I would say that generally Australians are probably known for being a little bit louder, maybe sometimes a little bit more cocky, but also maybe more friendly. Whereas Kiwis are probably known as, you know, being a bit more reserved, being a bit more quiet, and kind of keeping to their friend circles. So we're still friendly, but maybe just not as open as Australians are. Although, you know, it obviously depends on the individual. That's just a generalization. Leave me a comment if you have a different opinion than me, or what you guys think of us. It'd be fun to read those comments. Just don't be too mean. Alright, now I'm going to talk about the climate. So both countries are fairly similar in the way that we have quite a mild climate. It doesn't tend to get below 0 degrees Celsius. It doesn't really get colder than that, at least not in the North Island of New Zealand anyway, which is where I am. Australia definitely, I don't think, gets below that. So it's pretty mild year round. Both countries have good summers, although in some parts of Australia they don't really even have winter because it's just really warm there. So in general, Australia is a little bit warmer than New Zealand, but you know, nothing too crazy in terms of differences there. But New Zealand has a much higher rainfall. We've got huge rivers and lakes. We definitely have a lot more mountains and hills here compared with Australia. It's a lot more flat, a lot more dry. They've got more of the outback type scenario, whereas we've got more of the bush. Now on to the wildlife. So with this one, the differences are quite big, and Australia can't really compete with New Zealand in terms of safety in nature. There are no poisonous snakes in New Zealand, or really just anything for that matter of fact that will hurt you. Maybe if like a sheep sits on you, that could hurt. No, actually they're not that big. No, okay. Nothing's gonna hurt you here. Meanwhile, in Australia, they are home to the most venomous animal on the planet, which is the box jellyfish, along with 93 types of poisonous snakes, 1,500 species of spiders, and did I mention the crocodiles? You know, just to give a few examples there of things that may or may not kill you. But what people from overseas don't seem to understand is that this is not the everyday thing for an Australian. It's not like you just walk out onto your back lawn and then it's like, oh shit, there's 7 poisonous snakes in my backyard. In the cities, it is fairly rare just to have these crazy poisonous snakes running past you. There may be some spiders and stuff, but all of these things I'm talking about are mainly going to be way out in the outback. So if you're in any of the main Australian cities, then there's nothing really to worry about. Let's chat about the Indigenous people. The Indigenous culture is a lot more prominent in New Zealand than it is in Australia. Māori are the Indigenous population of New Zealand who originated with settlers from Eastern Polynesia. It is also an official language of New Zealand along with English. Meanwhile, Australia's Indigenous people are Aboriginal Australians. Aboriginals are the descendants of the first people to leave Africa, and a genetic study has confirmed that they may be the oldest continuous culture on the planet, which is pretty insane but very cool. Also, something that's rather crazy is that the Australian Aboriginal languages consist of around 290 to 363 different languages. Unfortunately, you don't really see any of them being spoken today, or at least I haven't, but there were about 250 distinct social groupings throughout Australia. In New Zealand, there's still a fairly large Māori population of about 14-15%, but in Australia, their Aboriginal population is, I think it might actually be less than 1% now. In New Zealand, the culture is also a lot more prominent. You'll see signs in both languages, we sing our national anthem in both languages, but in Australia you hardly hear anything about the Aboriginal people. I mean, there's a little bit, but you don't hear a lot about their culture as it hasn't really integrated its way into modern Australia. Of course, Aboriginal culture and history does exist, but it just doesn't seem to be celebrated so much, which is quite sad really. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that this will help to kind of draw the line a little more in between some of those differences between the two countries. Overall, we are pretty similar. We're just like a brother and sister, but we're not exactly the same. If I missed out any of the differences in this video, then let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you can think of any more. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!